A mirror match is something that's described as two or more parties that are essentially playing the same thing against each other. It's something you typically see in fighting games more often than any other game, simply because of how fighting games work. Games like Smash Bros. Or Street Fighter, stuff like that, you'll commonly see mirror matches at the high level of the game. But even if they aren't fighting games, mirror matches happen in other games as well. And so today I want to talk about why mirror matches aren't as common in Splatoon 2 as you would see in most other games. So like I said, a mirror match is something where people are playing essentially the same thing. They are basically mirroring each other. Now, if certain weapons in Splatoon 2 are as powerful and better than most people think, or as people think rather, then you would expect to see comps that are identical and exactly the same, fighting each other non-stop. But that's actually not the case. If we go to Sendao.inc and look at the tournament listings and look at some of the more recent tournaments, you'll see that there isn't even a single mirror match in any of these. This is actually quite opposite from what early Splatoon 1 was, where mirror matches were kind of common, but that was strictly because of the limited weapon pool. But now, with Splatoon 2 and there being as many weapons as there are, things like mirror matches are very uncommon, and the reason for that is simply the game's balance. Despite what people think, the game is actually relatively balanced. If it wasn't balanced, then you would see mirror matches. Things that are just so grossly overpowered and so much better than anything else would always be picked and would always appear. But because of the game's design and the game's balance, it actually allows for more diverse picks and things to show up that might not just be overly dominant. If we were talking in terms of like tier lists, I would classify the gap between the best picks in the game and good picks in the game to be a very small gap between the good picks and the bad picks. Essentially, like look at it like the best picks in the game would be like S tier, and the good picks would be A tier. It would be just a tier below it. But then the bad tiers would probably be like D. There's quite a bit of a gap between them. And that's, again, because of the balance and the game design. There's so much focus on painting and killing that you could build a comp around the ability to do both. If you want to have someone that plays a weapon that's strictly painting and not putting stuff like ink armor, then they may or may not be participating in kills as much, so then you could have a Slayer weapon that isn't so focused on painting, but instead more focused on getting map control through killing other people. This is something that is part of the game design and part of the balance, where certain things that are at the top level are probably more often than not good at one thing or the other, and so other things need to be in the comp to make up for what those things can't do. Like the Splattershot Pro, or the Kansas Splattershot Pro specifically, is really good at taking fights, but it's not exactly the best painting weapon in the game. So you would need something that can paint alongside it. And whether or not you choose something for its painting ability is based on the map, the other weapons in the comp, and then the player's personal preference as well. Certain things will appear more often than not because, well, stuff like ink armor are still very prevalent, so certain ink armor weapons or certain painter weapons are still more common than others. But the fact that there aren't any mirror matches is actually a pretty good testament to how, even across the board, most weapons in the game actually are. And I feel like this is something a lot of people don't give enough credit to. There have been quite a few points where weapons were considered in that bad tier and unplayable simply because of their kit. And with the way that a lot of Splatoon's weapons work and the design of the game, where the same weapon can have multiple kits, a main weapon could be good, but the kit that it has might restrict its ability and usefulness. And then when it gets a variant that has a good sub and a good special, or one or the other that essentially allows it to exist, then it becomes a good option. And like I said, the gap between the best and the good are is pretty small. There's a very small gap between those. So once something is in that good category, there's an argument to be made for its usefulness. And as long as there's an argument to be made, the chances are it will appear somewhere. And even when you get to the point where at the highest level of the game and people are trying to maximize and find the most useful weapons and the best things for any situation, you still don't see mirror matches. And that comes down once again to preference and the balance. Weapons that are the best might not fit everyone's playstyle, and certain weapons might be geared more towards someone, and someone might favor something over whatever is currently the best available. Like I said, in early Splatoon 1, mirror matches were pretty common. You'd see a lot of matches that were essentially the exact same with like double 96 deco, a 52 and an E leader, or single 96 deco, two 52s, an E leader, so on and so forth. It was a lot more common, but it was because the weapon pool was so much smaller. Now that we have so many weapons, there's a lot of different options, and all of the map designs and the weapons themselves cater more towards different stuff. Certain maps like New Albacore, you're probably not going to play a whole bunch of short range weapons. And things like Skate Park, you're not going to play a whole bunch of long range weapons. So the weapons themselves need to be fit towards the map, the mode, and then built around each other so you're not having an entire comp that's all slayers and all painters. You want a good mix, and then someone's play style and so on and so forth. So essentially the reason why that the mirror match doesn't come up as often is because the game is actually balanced in a certain way around all the weapons and the maps and the modes and the play styles. So it's very uncommon to see a mirror match now, simply as a testament to how balanced the game actually is. Of course, there are outlier weapons, things that are very prevalent, very powerful, and seem to have no shortcomings. But if the game was as unbalanced as some people try to make it out to be, then every high level match would be a mirror match because there would just be no better options. It would only be the best things in the game playing against the other best things in the game. And let me tell you, that hasn't happened in a long time. So with all of that, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you have anything you'd like to interject, you think that I'm right, you think that I'm wrong, I want to hear people's thoughts on whether or not they believe the game is as balanced as I'm trying to make it out to be, and why you may think mirror matches aren't as prevalent as they would be in other games like this. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.